All right, to start with, look at the black dog disappearing into the black seat. These are very special seats there, Roxy, I'll have you know. All right, so in here, we can see the rod change linkage. And I've got this installed with the the mount that modifies it for the Mk1 floor. So it's got the correct shaped mod. Thank you, Mini Mania. They've made those for years. But we can still see that with new rubber mountings, you can see there's a fair amount of wobble to the shifter housing itself on those rubber mountings. So I'm going to make a sway bar of sorts here, I think, after some initial testing, just to make sure everything works. It's a nice short throw shifter. Right now I don't have the bottom plate on, so there's no reverse lockout, but certainly it's enough to fire it up here and see what happens when it goes into gears. Out here, let's take a quick look. I've got the twin carbs that came on the other kind of hot-rodded little 998 sitting over there. Aaron, I think, has the air cleaners. Let's see what happens here. It's again, we can fire it up like this. We're not going to go desert racing. The complication here on the fan end of things with the radiator, the motor mounts underneath. I showed some of the mounts in here. The issue with the incorrect lower mounting, basically the standard small bore mount that made no provision for a damper. And then it had a thick damper. So basically there was a trapped belt. Could not fit the belt between the damper and the mounting below. You'd have had to undo the side of the transmission mount. Different than this later setup here. This is a lot of A+ bits. But you can see now there's room for the belt, room for the mount. I did end up modifying some of these mountings a little bit in an effort to fit the great big tropical fan that was installed here, but it just would not fit between the water pump, the pulley, the radiator, in any way, shape, or form, with or without the radiator mounted. I tried cockeying it all kinds of ways, just would not go in without damage to the radiator. So this is one of the common and very good 11 blade plastic fans that fit nicely. And this car has a beautiful front end sheet metal. You can tell it's never been tweaked because all of these bits mounted up just as they should with, you know, oh boy, 1/8 of an inch of clearance around the fan there, and you can see the properly installed fan with the airfoil going the proper way for the direction of rotation to blow outward. I elected not to install the AccuSump that Aaron had in here, nor the oil cooler for now. You know, if I've mentioned this sort of thing before, in my view, more engines are destroyed by improper mountings, blown hoses, dirt that gets in, than are saved by the extra oil cooling and such these days. These engines have an oil pump arrangement. If they're running, they're making pressure, AccuSump or not. If they're not, you got big problems, AccuSump or not. It's an extra complication, and in my view, the simpler you keep these, the easier they are going to be to live with, the more you're going to enjoy them. You know, this little engine over here from our friend Jim was installed in a little Sprite that we got with a 5-speed behind it. And guess what? Somebody tried to hokey the oil line into an oil cooler with a rubber hose. It blew up, destroyed the engine, destroyed the crankshaft. Forget about the oil cooler in general use. You know, these things, oil coolers are from an era where if oil got above a certain temperature, that was it. It was like a wax candle. But today, oil runs way higher because cars have to run hotter for emissions. You do not have an issue in most normal uses that requires the extra complexity, the hassle to get to things, the extra expense, and I guarantee it, prove me wrong, more engines are destroyed by disastrous installations and lines that fail and vibration than are saved by oil coolers. I have already put the battery on, switched on the ignition, verified which of these was bringing power from the ignition switch. This is, of course, with a lot of these Minis, a variety of wires hanging around. It was similar when I put it, when I took it apart. I ended up using Aaron's existing sending units for the various gauges that are installed in the car as we get very close to starting this up and putting it in gear and driving off in it. make it work. What an obnoxiously loud Camaro. Still not as cool as this whole thing. Alright, so this is the famous super steep on-ramp. We'll try this super small bore. Remember, this started out as an A+ 998 here. And I don't like doing this, operating the car and the phone, but let's see. Second gear. Woohoo! This is steep. Let's get up here. Yeah. A+ 998. Here we go. Fourth. Woohoo! It's kind of hard to believe. I do believe it's happier on the highway than my 1380 was. It's just smoother. What is it with these 1000s? This thing's unreal. What 998? Yeah, I'm gonna call this an awesome, awesome snowboard. There's the cameraman right there, and then the driver up here, for the most part. Whoa. What are your thoughts, Hobson? It shut off mostly without having to kill the clutch. Sure. Whew. I'll tell you one thing about it. Today is not a hot day. And these windows, people love these early Minis. This is called a Mk1 Mini. These windows slide open like old-fashioned things. Oh, man, it's hot. These things are just dumb. Can a 6-foot person unfold out of it? Pretty easily. How about a 4-foot person? You can unfold out of there too. Yeah, this thing runs fantastic. Good job. There's a nice tame little idle. We got this running now. It sounds really good. As I pull it into the garage here. Making a nice little purr. Really capture a few seconds. Smelling like a two-stroke race motorcycle. We've got our guest test pilot and camera person here, Zaby Cooper. I'm going to hand him the phone. Keep it pointed up that way and point it where you want.
Never.
Seriously? Well, at least shift the car.
I'll drop it.
See? You just hold it like that and point it at the car and point it out the window. Will you do it? I'll put it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, just hold it like that. Don't put your finger in front of the camera. There you go. Hold it like that.